Hello, I'm Don Moores, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. The upcoming legislative session may hold great promise for support of Project Open Space, as well as parks throughout our state. And in addition, hopefully, including our agricultural preserve. Charlotte Davis, the Executive Director of the Rural Maryland Council, formerly with the Committee for Montgomery, is here to tell the story. The Augustine Commission will issue the second part of a report that may include segments that will have a big effect on our residents in Montgomery County. Ilaya Hopkins from the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce is here to explain. You can eat your way to a healthier brain, says Henry Hailstock, our next guest, who comments regularly for this program. He's going to tell us what we should start eating. Recently, the Sentinel Newspaper has held its second annual awards ceremony, honoring individuals in our county who have made a significant difference. Brian Karem, the executive editor of the Sentinel, is here with the story. Charlotte Davis, I got to tell you, I saw you in the room this morning, the green room. It is great to see you. It's been too long.
I'm happy to be back.
Frederick County down to Montgomery County. You were with us yesterday for the Committee for Montgomery breakfast, twice in 1 week. It's fantastic. Tell us about your position, the organization you're working for now, and what promises it holds out for this upcoming legislative session.
Sure. We're an independent state agency. We're located in the Maryland Department of Agriculture. We bring together federal, state, local, elected, appointed officials, plus private stakeholders to talk about the challenges to our rural areas. We are funded through the state's operating budget, so we do have a statewide focus in state government. So our vision is that we will improve standard of living in our rural areas to meet statewide averages while preserving our cultural heritage. So our rural economies are focused primarily on agriculture and tourism. So we spend a lot of time discussing agriculture, land use, as well as just economic development in general and what that means for rural.
So when I look through, when we look at open space is different from agriculture. Because open space, and maybe you could explain some of that difference, because I think a lot of people in Montgomery County get confused between the two, because agriculture, it's working, it's business, it's producing food. Open space is not.
Right, because it's about the land use and how you're using it. So park is mainly for recreational purposes, where people are coming and enjoying it, playing sports or walking, whereas agriculture is about working the land, growing either a crop or livestock, and it is a business, and it is our largest manufacturing sector in the entire state. It is we can argue about services and real estate and government, but it is our largest.
Well, in Montgomery County.
Before we get there, there's a website that people can learn more
about who we are. Yeah, it's rural, rural.maryland, all spelled out, .gov.
Okay.
Well, in Montgomery County, it doesn't matter whether it's open space or agriculture. The developers don't like it. They want to develop it. You gotta. I hear it every day. We need to develop more in Montgomery County and take away the green space, take away the ag reserve.
Well, and smart growth works for that. We have priority funding areas, so state focuses resources in already developed areas, which is Montgomery County. So this county is going to get more dense. Whereas our rural areas, we've specifically said, no, we're not going to allow development there. And so that's been a detriment to our economic development. So we are seeing population loss.
But, it's interesting, because in Montgomery County, when you say these things, Brian, and coming up with this, we have in our agriculture reserve, we have nearly 100,000 acres set aside. The development rights of that land were divided from the land itself, transferred to make Silver Spring and Bethesda more dense. So it's interesting, and maybe this is something that happens elsewhere in the state, in terms of the developers having a very short memory. They've already benefited, and now they want to come back and justify.
And attack the ag reserve. That's one of the biggest.
Which is a killer.
Right.
Yeah, one of the biggest arguments for developers, or one of their biggest arguments, is it's stifling us, and we need to cut down on the size of the ag reserve.
If I could just say, at our chamber, when we're working on master plans and looking at land use in the county, it's one of the reasons that we have supported and advocated for transit infrastructure along the Purple Line, the Corridor Cities Transit Way, other master plans that are going to be supported by that infrastructure, because that's where everyone agrees transit-oriented development is really going to be the way forward for Montgomery
So
County.
let's keep on Charlotte's story
Right.
here. Let's keep going on the,
I mean,
yeah.
excuse me, in that light, I'm more interested in the historical heritage.
Right.
And I see this development coming around, and I know that one of my organizations I belong to, NAACP, had to fight vehemently for two of the areas around here to preserve that. So can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, that's done through the program Open Space, which is paid for through a transfer tax. For any transfer of real estate, a percent of that, one half a percent, is put into program Open Space, which is subdivided up to the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation. So these are the easements to keep these open lands into agriculture use. It also goes to the heritage areas to preserve some of our cultural assets that we have. And it goes to park development, either statewide or even to local municipalities. And we've had this since 1969. Problem is, with the Great Recession, we've been diverting a lot of that funding into other uses. So this is one of these truth in taxation where, you know, people are paying into this, but it's not being used for its intended purpose.
We've got about 45 seconds left. What do you see as your biggest challenge to work to get the legislature to get this tax back to being used for the right purposes?
Right, and so there was a joint work group over the interim that looked at this and is recommending to keep the formula the way it's diverted the same, and to recommend stop diverting the funding for future years, particularly when we are reporting surpluses and, you know, states in definitely
Right.
better financial shape, and it's time to, we have waiting lists for farms to go into the program, as well as we're having to close down state parks because they're over capacity. You know, in the summer, we've got to close them down, so we need to develop more.
And it's such an important part to preserve because it really contributes to the quality of life that attracts people and keeps people here.
Which parks were closed down?
There are all, well, they closed them
word, real quick,
temporarily
real
out
quick.
in Western Maryland and Eastern Shore, yeah.
There we go. Depressing. Charlotte, I'm hoping you'll come back down.
Absolutely.
I-270 flows southward, not just northward.
Yep.
We'd love to have you back
I
again.
would absolutely love to be
Ilaya
back.
Hopkins, welcome back.
Thank you, glad to be
Montgomery
here.
County Chamber of Commerce. This Augustine report, we've talked about it before in prior appearances. Give us an update and maybe a review again of what it's all about and what we're hoping to expect.
Sure. So our chamber does year-round advocacy, even though the General Assembly is only in session for 90 days from January to April. We're working here in the county and at the state level, watching some of these issues that really do have an impact on the businesses and residents of Montgomery County. The Maryland Economic Development Business Climate Commission is the official name that President Miller and Speaker Bush established back
President of the Senate, he's not
yeah,
President of the United States,
that's right.
and Speaker of the Maryland General Assembly of the House of Delegates.
That's right, thank you.
Yes.
They established this in 2014, and in the 2015 session, the first part of the Augustine Commission, known for after the chair, Norm
Stormy
Augustine, resulted in 5 pieces of legislation, including the restructuring of the Department of Business and Economic Development, which is now the Department of Commerce with a Secretary of Commerce. They chose purposely to set aside the toughest nut to crack, which is tax policy. So they reconvened this summer and had a number of meetings where they talked about tax policy in Maryland and the implications on the competitiveness of our state. Again, we have wonderful assets, parks, education, robust transportation network, but we're not competing at the level that we can and should be. So
Competing against Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, West Virginia.
North Carolina, Berlin, Bangladesh, I mean,
Okay.
it's a global marketplace, and Maryland has tremendous assets and strategic and unique assets, and we need to make sure that the tax policies support retaining and growing business.
People can learn more about this issue and everything else on the Chamber's agenda by going to your website.
Our
right?
website, which is mcccmd.com.
Well, how competitive can we? The biggest problem with the state budget is the fact that so much of it is already predetermined how we're going to spend it. So you're actually, when you start arguing about it, what is 11 to 15% tops that you actually have some discretion over?
I attended many of the Augustine Commission meetings throughout the summer, and there's a robust conversation about that real balance act of, what the fiscal implications are of changing tax policy, cutting the corporate interest rate or providing relief to small businesses that have to pay the personal income tax, which is known as the pass-through. And so there's great sensitivity among that group that it is a balancing act.
Well, you're either going to have to raise taxes
Or cut services.
cut services. I mean, or accommodate. I mean, this is what the county faces. What Mike Leggett's talking about. I mean, you got three choices: raise taxes, cut services, or a combination of both. And so, I mean, where's that leading us? I mean, this legislative session is coming up. I don't think you're going to have anyone supporting either of those very well.
I think you put your finger on it, though. It's the combination, and it's striking that balance of
It's not
providing
politically correct.
some relief
Well,
and
the
making
governor
sure
has
that
been
we
really-
are competitive.
Has been really vocal about his desire to see tax relief come. We just don't know
Yeah.
what that means. Is that sales tax, corporate tax, income tax?
Well, and it doesn't come in a vacuum.
Yeah.
I mean,
There
you
was-
cut it. You got,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
What's going
Part
to
of the commission analysis had a report from Moody's, and it's a great, thorough evaluation of how Maryland measures up. And one of the critical pieces is the personal income tax and how that affects not just a S-corp business pass-through entity, but even employees that you're trying to attract.
Let me ask you this. When I hear tax reform at the state level, what goes off in my head besides the services cut and everything else is that the state will, for want of a better word, weasel out of more of its responsibility vis-a-vis Montgomery County. And that we will then come in and our effective tax rates will go up because we're replacing what the state should be doing. And given the governor's strength, he's the most powerful governor vis-a-vis a legislature in the country, and his power coming from the more rural areas and less urban areas, the areas that are not the economic engine of this state, which Montgomery County is, that we're gonna once again have to bite the bullet.
As you mentioned, a lot of it is formula driven, so there's probably less play than maybe you think. But I will say, we also advocate for appropriate investment in infrastructure. You know, we were strong advocates of the gas tax and worked hard on the referendum to make sure that the Transportation Trust Fund gets used for transportation projects. Likewise with education, we know that K through 12 education is a huge asset to the business community and are working hard with our colleagues to make sure that GCEI and other things
15
are
seconds
funded.
left in this segment before we have time. What final word? Augustine Commission, will we see tax reform come through this legislature or during couple sessions?
Our legislative agenda focuses on business opportunities, economic competitiveness, and in strategic investment. And I think it is going to take everybody coming together to find that balance.
Okay, so you are confident.
I am. I always am.
And actually, I guess we're a little bit more time. Anything more you want to add about the chamber and what you're looking at besides the Augustine Commission? I mean, you personally, what are you going to be working
Well, I will say we appreciated the invitation to the event to recognize some of our elected officials who are in these difficult positions of having to do this. And when we can come to them with input and ideas, both as businesses and residents, that helps inform the difficult decisions they have to make. So thank you for recognizing them.
And we'll talk more about your recognition a little bit later. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back.
Yeah.
Henry Hailstock, welcome back. So brain and food, direct link between what we eat and the health of our brain. Share that with us.
What you eat has a huge impact on your brain. And you've heard your families always say, you are what you eat,
Sure.
which is really true. And we have to be cognizant of that. A lot of people just eat what is satisfactory to us. You know, like I did last night, ate a lot of Doritos, which is not good because it has a lot of trans fat.
There's not a straight link
saturated fat.
between Doritos and smarter.
I tried to make it
brains.
like that, but it didn't
Yeah.
work.
You didn't try a
It
little
didn't work.
Sudoku after the Doritos? And say, I got it now.
No, it
No.
doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And the thing about it is that when I start thinking about this and hearing my wife continually tell me, you know, I should be more aware of what I eat or increase my insurance, I started looking into that. And really, you know, the right food that you eat with a combination of the good, you know, different foods really will help you in your memory, which I need very.
I forgot, what'd you say?
and it also really helps, you know, with new brain cells.
Let's talk
and
about-
it staves off Alzheimer's. I didn't realize that.
Let's talk about some of the foods that you've discovered through your research that are particularly helpful.
Well, the diets that have fish, vegetables,
Okay.
whole grain, have nuts, and really that, for your purposes, a glass of wine daily really staves off the cognitive declines, and also helps to stem off Alzheimer's as well. Really, if you look into that. And really,
Good.
the other factor that some other produces is like berries
Right.
and leafy greens.
Okay.
That helps. They even said it was a study that really indicated that a person who ate 1 to 2 servings of leafy vegetables
Mhm.
a day really cognitively will have 11 years younger than a person who had fewer greens a day. And I didn't realize that, so I started eating that.
And what's great is many of those foods you're talking about are grown and can be grown in Maryland's farms,
That's
which
the
goes
best.
back to our first story.
And the
Yes.
common denominator is really the plant foods that you eat,
Right.
and that helps stave off a lot of this stuff. And I didn't realize that. One of the other factors is blueberries. I didn't
Right.
know they had the most significant, cognitive
The
perks.
antioxidants and everything else.
Yeah,
But what,
all that.
So you ate the Doritos last night.
Mhm.
You're doing the research. You're here today.
Yes.
Tell me about breakfast. What did you do? How did you change your diet
Breakfast
to
is your-
start moving in
Breakfast
to this?
is your most important food,
Why?
but because, it starts out your day, and
Right.
it helps perk up your body, which is very important in what you eat in that factor. The biggest thing that you need to understand is that if you put in your diet the things that I just mentioned, it will help you. And
So
really,
coffee and my coffee and
No.
bacon diet are out.
no, coffee, nuts, blueberries, dark chocolate will also help you
Why is he looking at us?
in your
Dark
health.
chocolate is not grown in Montgomery County. Cacao beans,
But it
unfortunately,
is
is the only
eaten,
thing
and
here.
It is eaten a
is
lot.
Imported
That's right.
into Montgomery
So that's that
County.
global market you were talking
That's
about.
right. That's right. Exactly. And it's really important to do that. And people who have, had problems in the past with their memory and with, because it's been shown.
Can change
And-
their
and-
diet.
Yeah, but the key is, experts are talking about, is the trans fats and the saturated fats that you have in your diet.
Right.
Because studies have shown that saturated fats and trans fats really cause a memory problem, because they've done memory tests, and people who have added trans fats and saturated fats
Right.
really did poorly in memory tests, which is my problem.
40, we have about 40 seconds left.
Okay.
Advice, I mean, you've gone through, improve your diet,
Mhm.
probably get some exercise as well, like moving
Yes.
around, because I think that blood flowing, as
Right.
I've read, gets
Nuts
to your
and all that
brain
really
as well.
will help in doing that. But also remember the diets like Mediterranean diets, DASH diets, or the combination of both really will help stave off that dreaded thing down the road, decades down the road, Alzheimer's. But it also will improve your memory and your health in general.
I remember the old commercials for one of the yogurt companies. Eat the yogurt. Eat the. What's the secret of your lunch? Eat the yogurt.
The one I remember is I can't believe you ate the whole thing.
Well, that. well, I
As long
can't.
as you have a balanced meal, balanced food diet, it will help.
Well,
And
that's-
just look into that.
Well, we will, Henry, and look forward to having you back next time with the pearls of wisdom from Henry Hailstock. Thank you so much. Brian, I got to tell you, I went to the Sentinel Newspaper honoring the second annual awards program. I had so much fun, but I hadn't realized what a wonderful singer and that music group you're performing with.
Who are you talking to?
was. It was wonderful.
I'm glad you had a good time. It was a good time.
It was, and you set the stage, and then the importance of honoring these great
Well,
people.
the idea, of course, we wanted to honor the memory of our owner, Dr. Bernard Kaploff. He was a maverick and a very independent publisher. And then we also wanted to have a good time. It's the end of the year, holiday season. A lot of holidays being celebrated, including Festivus, my favorite. And so
For the rest of us.
for the rest of us. And so we wanted everyone to have a good time, but at the same time, get together with government officials and recognize a good effort, because so oftentimes when you have interactions with reporters, it's not because you did something good, and oftentimes it can be conflict in it.
And you had this amazing cross section. You had county council members, you had state delegates, you had a secretary of one of the agencies,
Yes.
DLLR, Department of Labor licensing and regulation representing the governor. You had the state's attorney, the chief of police. You really had, it was amazing.
It was a nice cross-section.
Great group of people.
We gave out 8 awards, 4 of them humanitarian awards. This is our first year for those.
Right.
We gave a humanitarian award to Governor Larry Hogan. As I said, politics in this country have become so divisive, and it's essential to recognize humanity in all of us.
Heck of an applause for
yeah.
him and for what you
And
all
for-
did.
and for what he
Website
did.
for the Sentinel as we're going through this.
www.thesentinel.com. It's really
Okay.
complicated. And then so we wanted to recognize the fact, he's suffering
Right.
and wanted to talk about that. And then Rose Barisal, she's a county police officer who, in her own spare time, does portraits of the fallen all
Right.
across the country for police officers who lose their
And the
lives.
timing on that, I mean, you
It
all
came right after
just right
we
after
lost
the
a
drunk driver, we
police
just-
officer locally, a 24-year-old.
from the
It was horrible.
Hooters drunk
Yes,
person. Yeah.
Allegedly.
accused. Yeah, not convicted. He does have some priors, but it
But I think-
came on
but
the
Tom
heels of
mentioned- But I
that.
thought the officer and also the chief were so, and you did so well in this of making sure that we focused on that and the issues having to do with the drinking and driving.
I think
as
if there's
well as with
anyone
the
that can,
fallen
yeah,
heroes.
if anyone can get that done, the people in that room have the ability when the legislature, including Jamie Raskin, who was there, they have the ability when.
I forgot about
let's-
candidates.
yeah,
Well, it said
yeah.
state delegates, state
Yeah,
senators, sure.
sure. When the legislature opens up at the beginning of next year, second Wednesday of January,
January 13th.
they could do something about that. And I think it's important, and it was important for us as a paper to recognize those people
Hank, I mean
who
Henry.
did well.
Well, you
Henry,
know,
no, Henry, I know.
Hank, Henry,
I know.
they call me everything.
So-
What made y'all decide to start doing this? And how long have you been doing
This is our second annual awards, and as we wanted to recognize some of the people, we do not endorse candidates. We're an independent voice, and our owner, Bernie, had said, listen, the best a newspaper can do is give you vetted information. Instead of taking sides so you think that we're in somebody's pocket, let you make a decision. But at the same time, we wanted to recognize those who are in office who actually have done well. And that was actually Bernie's decision, and then on his passing, we made it a memorial award in his memory. And he left us about 3 years ago, so we started on the anniversary of his.
It's great to see the Sentinel continuing Montgomery County's long tradition of being engaged and recognizing the sacrifice that a lot of the public service
And they
members
do.
make. Yeah, absolutely.
We
But
give
we-
them grief, but they
and-
do a lot of hard
But
work.
we appreciate that there's a local paper too, and people are really hungry for understanding what's happening and the accountability factor that objective journalism brings to the discussion.
Because that is very important. We don't have a local paper, that really, brought out a lot of the issues, and that's why I'm glad we have the Sentinel.
Yeah,
And it's
161 years and going strong.
And it's lasting.
Yeah.
That's one.
Great.
Going
Yeah.
strong
Right.
is the key,
Right.
because we don't want to see it to go.
We've seen
Well,
it
one of the things
decline
that we see
in all
on
of
the internet and social media, there's a lot of information that's not vetted, and people run with opinions, and they form their facts to fit their opinions.
Yes.
What we're in the business of doing is providing vetted facts, free of opinion, on our news page, and that's our goal. If you want an opinion, I'll give it to you on the opinion page.
So-
Otherwise, it's news.
30
No
seconds,
opinions
30
allowed.
seconds left in this.
How do
the
people
show.
get the Sentinel? Is it passed out at grocery stores? Or
We
how do you-
are in 7-Elevens, we're at the Metro, we're at grocery stores, and you can subscribe. Hit us up online, and we'll love to have you subscribe. That's why we're
Excellent.
still around. We're subscription based, and we didn't give it away free.
Your lasting memory from the second annual awards was what?
There were several of them. I think the 90-year-old woman, Janet Payne,
Sure.
who lost everything she owns, including her cat, in a fire. And the fact that she came out as a survivor, has a new place to live, and everyone in the county got behind her was something.
And that's the last word. And just as we're getting behind you, Brian Karem, and the rest of you, I want to thank each of you for joining me today. And I want to thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Moores, and I invite you to join us next week at this very same time.
That is.